Hello, fellow classmates. Today I'm going to talk about a favorite topic of mine, reading. Most of you probably know that reading is an incredibly healthy activity with a whole slew of different benefits. But at the risk of being a tad repetitive and maybe seeming a little bit like those teachers and adults that we all had throughout our childhood that stressed the importance of reading, I'm going to do just that and insist that you amuse me and listen to some of the more important effects of reading, and I will even divulge some ways to help yourself get into reading. First off, let's do a little history. With the creation of writing came the creation of reading in around 3500 BCE. Let's be clear, they weren't reading novels or short stories or anything like that. They were merely used writing as a form of record keeping that evolved from the need to have what they called an immortal witness. As such, their reading was simply the extraction of information from the records that they kept. As writing evolved and people realized that they could put emotion into their writing, much like an art form, the act of reading for pleasure evolved with that. Now, with technology being so widely available and the ability of stories being told through our screens, through movies and videos and TV shows, reading levels and time spent reading have really dropped off. For instance, on average, people 15 to 44 years old in the United States spend less than 10 minutes a day reading, and more than 43 Americans in the United States possess low literacy skills. This causes people to lack important skills, including analyzation skills, comparing and contrasting information, paraphrasing information, and vocabulary skills. So, we've talked about the history, the problem related to the lack of reading ability in the United States, and how that problem can affect individual skills. Let us now pivot to how reading can help individuals in 3 different ways. So reading involves the use of the brain, analyzing, writing to divine literal and emotional meaning within the writing being read. This directly translates to improved brain functioning within the areas of the brain that handle comprehension, language, memory, and decision making. For instance, in a study completed by the National Institute of Health, they found that reading led to decreased brain volume in the inferior parietal region and the inferior frontal region, with the former being responsible for integration of information and the latter for speech and language processing. I know that you might be saying, how does smaller brain volume translate to improved function? Well, it's much similar to the way that athletes or fit individuals have lower resting heart rates, because the heart does not need to work as hard to provide proper blood supply to the body and to the brain. These sections of the brain, because of all the practice and analyzation of information, speech, and language, those sections end up not needing to work as hard to process this information. Hence, they can be a little smaller, take up less area in the brain. To a second point, reading increases the abilities of individuals to empathize. This is super important. This derives from the fact that reading often involves experiencing the emotions of characters within the books as they experience different types of life events that we may come across in our own lives. With this memory bank of emotions related to events, you get to see how it exposes others to similar or even unsimilar events, and you use this knowledge to then understand how these emotions are affecting the people that you're witnessing experience these events. This idea is called theory of the mind, and it relates to skills that are used to navigate, build, and continue social relationships. I think I speak for everyone when I say that we all wish people could just understand how our emotions worked and how we're feeling at that certain point, so that they could better provide the needs that we're requiring while experiencing those emotions. I'm not saying that reading guarantees the ability to do this, but it sure does help. Lastly, reading reduces stress levels. And it's no secret that stress can have many negative effects on the body, including elevation of blood pressure, heart rate, decreased brain function, and decreased metabolic activity. Now, as we get closer to finishing, I want to go over some of the ways improving reading habits, and in turn, that you can improve reading habits, and in turn, improve your health. To start, set a reading goal. Set a goal. Be it 12 books a year, 36 books a year, as many books a year as you want. But set a goal. And then break that goal from a long-term goal, be it 12 books a year, into a short-term goal like 1 book a month. So that way when you achieve those short-term goals, you're more and more inspired to push for that long-term goal. Another point is to think about, while setting a goal, is to consider how the achievement of that goal is going to better impact your health and help you grow throughout your life, and also improve your social structures and all the other factors that we've discussed so far. Another tip, turn reading into a habit by selecting specific times. This develops reading into your routine, much like exercise. We all know humans are routine creatures. We're habitual creatures. We do the same things pretty much day in and day out. It might not be easy at first, and you may find yourself hard to stick to it, but as the schedule goes on, it will become easier and easier. Next, bring a book with you everywhere you go. Everywhere. By doing this, it will encourage you to read whenever you get into a situation where you don't have anything else to do. And then before you know it, you'll find yourself reading in situations where you are just waiting, and probably in situations where you probably do have other stuff to do, but you just feel like reading. Just for a little visual, I carry this book bag with me everywhere I go. Pretty much goes in the car every time I go in the car, along with my laptop. It also has 2 books that I'm currently reading, The Ides of March and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They're both Christmas gifts from my dad. He gives the best books. Lastly, if reading is something that you just cannot get into, try an audiobook, as audiobooks provide many of the same benefits related to brain function, stress, empathy skills, vocabulary skills, and even reading skills themselves. Listening to audiobooks can be the catalyst that pushes you into reading, or the skill development that allows for reading to come easier. With that, I come to the end of this speech, and I encourage you all to contemplate picking up a book. If you don't already, thank you.